Has Lex Luthor's past finally come back to haunt Superman, and more specifically, why is it Superman's fault that one of the most dangerous threats to ever come to Metropolis is now on the loose? What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. Alright, today's video, I'm gonna be talking about Superman #7, written by Joshua Williamson, with art by Gleb Melnikov, Dan Jurgens, Norm Rapman, and Edwin Gallman, with color by Alejandro Sanchez and Edwin Gallman. In this issue, a couple of really big things happen here. Since I didn't do a video for Superman #6, the first thing I want to talk about is what's up with the Chained. The Chained is someone that Lex Luthor had locked away back in his early years operating in Metropolis. This was a character who was one of Lex's deep dark secrets that was hinted at earlier in the series, where Graph and Farm had kind of hinted that there were things that Superman didn't know about that Lex had done, even referring to something called Project Chained. And even if Lex would have told Superman about it, he wouldn't have gotten the chance to, because in that same issue, which I believe was Superman #5, when all this was revealed, Lex Luthor was later shanked and then left presumably dead, but that's not the case either. This misconception cropped up largely because once Lex Luthor was shanked and left for dead, all of the Dawn of DC books were put on hold because Joshua Williamson ran off to do Night Terrors, you know, the comic that has like 82 million tie-ins a week. Well, now that that is over and we've read all 16 million issues of Night Terrors, we can now get back to Superman, and it's here we learn Lex is actually okay. I mean, well, yeah, as okay as a guy can be, having been shanked as many times in the stomach as he was. Either way, Superman learning from Graph and Farm that Lex Luthor had something tucked away that he wasn't talking about, referred to as Project Chained, it got Superman's wheels turning, and he wanted to know more about it. This led him to investigate the matter and discover from the Jor-El version of Lex Luthor, the hologram that is in Supercorp, Lex had created a prison that was 400 feet below Stryker's Island, the premier prison where all of Metropolis's supervillains tend to be kept. Not only was Project Chained some kind of a prison, but it was also built specifically for one person referred to as the Chained. Someone who has incredible power, someone so powerful, in fact, that if you could compare Superman's strength to this person's ability to manipulate objects with their mind, you could almost make the case that for as physically strong as Superman is, the Chained is mentally just as strong. At least that's what it seems like up to this point. What I mean by that is that he possesses something very similar to Connor Kent, aka Superboy's Tactile Telekinesis. This is something Superboy has had for quite some time. The Tactile Telekinesis that he is famous for is basically a field that exists around him at all times. This field is what helps him replicate Superman's durability and invulnerability, as well as even helping augment his strength. And as you would imagine, this being telekinesis, this also means that Superboy could manipulate objects with his mind very much in the same way that the Chained does. But the difference between both Superboy and the Chained's tactile telekinesis is that the Chained is just way better at it, and not to mention way more powerful with it than Superboy could ever presumably hope to be. It is even mused about by the Chained when he comes into contact with Superboy that there's some kind of connection between them. The Chained even recognizes Connor's power and ability as being the same as his, but far weaker. Now, this has led me to speculate whether or not the Chained is in some way, shape, form, or fashion one of Lex Luthor's earliest attempts at trying to create a superhuman. We don't really get any idea as to why this person hates Lex Luthor so much, outside of the obvious being that he was locked up and chained away into a prison by Lex Luthor, but we don't really have any backstory regarding this guy on any meaningful level yet. All we know is he absolutely positively hates Lex Luthor, and this is clearly something that was done before Lex Luthor had ever really encountered Superman on any meaningful level in the ways they have over the years, not including their run-ins back during Smallville, but once again, it does make one wonder. This person could just as easily be someone that maybe Lex Luthor experimented on. And to give you just an idea of how much Lex Luthor has played his cards so close to the chest on this, even Mercy, didn't know who was down there, much less did she know anything really in any meaningful fashion about Project Chained in the first place. She seemed at least vaguely aware of it, but she didn't know anything about the circumstances surrounding it. But I'm pretty sure these are all things we're going to learn very soon. But what you do need to know is that the Chained, yes, he is incredibly powerful to the point that he is pretty much soloing the entire Superman family, and even Superman himself is not 100% able to take him down. And it makes me wonder when Superman is going to tap into what is effectively kind of his own version of tactile telekinesis. We've seen recently in Action Comics 1050 that Superman possesses an ability not unlike Connor's, albeit he doesn't refer to it as tactile telekinesis, but we have literally witnessed him completely dismantle Lex Luthor's power armor. And it wasn't like he was moving so fast that he was able to dismantle it without anyone seeing it. He literally just kind of waved his hand and boom, every piece of Lex Luthor's power armor was broken down to its smallest components. He was even able to, after being teleported away by Lex Luthor, to immediately return in the exact same place as if he was manipulating time and space. So it makes me wonder if this guy's really as much of a threat to Superman as what is kind of being built up to be, or maybe this guy's gonna help unlock some of that potential within Superman. It's difficult to say at this point, but if you're not familiar with anything I'm talking about here, check out my video for Action Comics number 1050 and you'll learn all about it. Now, speaking of special abilities, Superman does actually use an ability we don't really ever see him use, and it's a trick he talks about having learned from the Flash. Some may or may not be familiar with the fact that the Flash is so superhumanly fast that he can vibrate his entire body down to its molecules to make it possible for him to either break or simply phase through solid matter. And Superman, while he was trapped in the chains of, well, the Chained in the previous issue, the chains are so powerful that they keep anyone from being able to break free of them because it takes into account the person's power. But considering the fact that I think Lex Luthor didn't really plan for these chains with Superman and his wide range of abilities, while they were able to keep the Chained locked away, Superman is a whole other story, which is how he gets free in this issue. He just simply vibrates through the chains. What's gonna make matters worse though for the Superman family now that the Chained is, well, off the chain, is that not only is the Chained free, and Lex Luthor is really one of the only people who can probably help them stop this particular menace, we also can't forget that Superman now has yet another problem to deal with because Dr. Farm and Mr. Graft have lent their services to the Chained in the form of an alliance between the two, because as we've learned over the course of Joshua Williamson's Superman series, both Graft and Farm have beef with Lex Luthor. The other thing I really wanted to talk about here is the return of Lena Luthor, and not Lex's sister, Lena Luthor, but the young daughter that Lex Luthor had back during the New Earth continuity with his now deceased, presumably, baby mama, Contessa Erica Alexandra de Potenza. Lena was a character who was first introduced back during Superman Volume 2, number 131, back in 1998. And when she was introduced, she was very much a child, very much a small infant. But during the Y2K Crisis story arc, or if you're looking at the collected trade paperbacks, you'll probably find this under the title of Superman City of Tomorrow. But during that story arc, Brainiac 13 had introduced himself to the Superman mythos, and in doing so came into direct conflict with what was at the time Brainiac 2.5. That version of Brainiac was kicked out of his own body by Brainiac 13 when he took it over, and Brainiac 2.5's essence had transferred into Lena Luthor. This more or less helps explain why Lena Luthor was able to talk pretty intelligently for someone who shouldn't even have been able to do much more than say goo goo and gaga. And over the course of that story arc, Lena was given up by Lex Luthor in exchange for advanced technology well beyond anything that Earth had ever possessed. Brainiac 13 had proposed that if Lex Luthor gave up Lena, he would literally turn Metropolis into the city of tomorrow. And Lex Luthor gave her up, and For all the talk and bluster he had about how much he cared about Lena Luthor and that she was his world, it all kind of seemed to be for nothing because at the end of the day, Lex gave her up and even went as far as to say when Superman asked him how could he do this, Lex Luthor straight up says, "I can always make another." Now, ultimately, one can make the case that Lex knew Superman would get his kid back because ultimately he does. And if this tells you how long ago this was all roughly around the time where Lex Luthor was president of the United States. And that's actually when we saw Lena Luthor again briefly when she made her return, seemingly as a slave to Brainiac 13. She even looked like a Brainiac, with her flesh having turned the color green, her hair turning stark blonde, the way that Brainiacs tend to look. After the City of Tomorrow story arc, we never really saw much of Lena, and even after everything that's happened between the time of the New Earth continuity jumping over to the Prime Earth continuity, which I'm just kind of ballparking here, it's probably been close to about 20 years since we've actually seen her in anything. It might be a little less, maybe closer to 15 or 18 maybe, but by just a quick estimation without looking anything up, I'm gonna say it's been about close to 20 years since we've seen Lena Luthor in anything. And I'm not talking about his sister. We have seen her during the New 52 and during this current continuity of DC Comics. Everything that is Prime Earth, we've seen that version of Lena Luthor. We even saw her as recent as the Superwoman series in DC Rebirth. I'm talking about the daughter, Lena Luthor. This is her first time appearing in Prime Earth continuity. And when she returns, she still has the indentions in her forehead that are synonymous with Brainiac. And apparently his own mother, Letitia Luthor, had been keeping Lena in her care while Lex Luthor had both of them sequestered away on some secret island that they could never be seen or heard from again. But because Lex Luthor is signed over LexCorp from himself over to Superman, this is what has brought Letitia Luthor back and is seeming like she's going to be trying to take over the role that Lex Luthor would normally fill in regards to how he antagonizes Superman. We also see that Brainiac himself is actually back, and he seems very interested in creating a daughter of his own, and he's also unleashed the Zardians he has under his control, the same species of humanoids that are synonymous with the character Lobo. He is unleashing them on just about any civilization that resembles humanity, and now he wants to take humanity for himself. But it seems there's something on Earth, and it's very likely the thing that he seems obsessed with, the idea of how humanity has produced so many superhumans on just its planet alone. The Earth is literally brimming with new superhuman life every single day, and he's become fascinated by it. And he wants to take whatever it is that's causing that and use it to help him create his own daughter. Now, I think it's safe to say, just based on the fact that Lena Luthor has returned, Brainiac is trying to create his own daughter, taking into account the history between Lena Luthor and Brainiac, I think it's safe to say Lena Luthor is going to wind up being the key. Not necessarily saying she's the key to why there are so many superhumans appearing on Earth, but just she is going to wind up being the key to helping him unlock his own daughter. Anyway, that's everything I really wanted to talk about with Superman number 7, and I guess by proxy, Superman number 6. There's other stuff that's going on there too, but these were the things I felt that were the most important. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more like it, make sure you click that subscribe button and tap that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of my multiple videos that I put out throughout the week, as well as my live streams every Saturday. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video, and until next time, let me know what you thought about Superman number 7. Keep it plus ultra and sound off in the comments.